Today, we're talking about a guy who didn't just define a sport, he was the sport. I'm talking, of course, about the one and only Tony Hawk. Think about it. That's the kind of question that makes or breaks a career, right? Well, for one guy answering it, man, it changed everything. We're talking about the holy grail of skateboarding here, a trick that was pushing the absolute limits of what anyone thought was humanly possible. And here he is, the man who did it. Anthony Frank Hawk, but you probably know him as the Birdman. And let me tell you, his story is it's a total roller coaster. We're talking about unbelievable highs, some seriously crushing lows, and what might be one of the greatest comebacks in the history of sports, period. So how does a kid from San Diego, a super hyperactive kid, by the way, become this global icon that everybody knows? Well, let's get into it. This is the legend of the Birdman. Okay, so our story starts back in San Diego. And when I say Tony Hawk was an energetic kid, that's putting it mildly. He was on a whole other level. Check out this number, 144. What's that? Well, that was Tony Hawk's IQ score. Yeah, the guy was officially labeled gifted, but at the same time, he was also labeled hyperactive. So his parents, kind of desperate for an outlet for all that energy, they encouraged his obsession with skateboarding, and boy, was that a perfect match. And from there, his rise was just meteoric. I mean, think about this. He gets his first skateboard at age 9. By the time he's 12, he's just dominating amateur contests. He turns pro at 14. And by 16, he's widely seen as the best competitive skateboarder on the planet. I mean, that's just an unbelievably fast climb to the top. And this really puts it all into perspective, right? By his senior year of high school, while other kids are worrying about who to take the prom, Tony Hawk is buying his first house. With prize money. He was living the dream, traveling the globe, winning everything. The 80s were a huge boom for skateboarding, and he was sitting right on top of that mountain. But then it all came crashing down. Almost overnight, the bottom just fell out of the whole scene. In the early 90s, skateboarding's popularity took a nosedive. It was seen as just some silly 80s fad. The sponsors disappeared, the skate parks started closing, and Tony Hawk's career almost went down with the ship. I mean, look at this. The contrast is just brutal. In the 80s, he's this teenage world champ buying a house. Fast forward to the 90s, and he's having to refinance that same house just to make ends meet. His income plummeted to like a few bucks a day from some leftover fast food deals. The sport he had totally mastered, it was basically a ghost town. But Tony Hawk, he just refused to quit. Instead of walking away from it all, he did the opposite. He doubled down. He took pretty much all the money he had left, around $100,000, and started his own skateboard company, Birdhouse Projects. You gotta understand, this was a massive, maybe even desperate gamble on an industry that everyone thought was dead. And that gamble, well, it would eventually pay off in a huge way. It all came to a head in one single year, 1999. A year that didn't just redefine his life, it launched skateboarding into the mainstream like never before. All right, so picture this. It's June 27th, 1999. We're at the X Games, which is the biggest stage there is for action sports. And for years, there was this one trick, this one impossible feat that just loomed over the entire sport. Nobody had ever landed it in a competition. It was like the final frontier of skateboarding. And that trick was the 900. What is that? It's 2.5 full rotations, that's 900 degrees, in midair on a skateboard. It takes an insane amount of speed, height, and perfect timing. Honestly, it was the stuff of myths and legends. A lot of people thought a human being just couldn't physically pull it off. But Tony Hawk was absolutely determined to be the first. So there he is in front of this massive, roaring crowd, and he tries and fails. He tries again, fails again. He tries 10 times, slamming onto the hard ramp over and over. You can just imagine the tension in the arena. And then, on his 12th attempt, bruised, exhausted, he goes for it one more time and he nails it. He stuck the landing. And the place just went insane. The entire arena just exploded. The second he landed it, he threw his board down, put his hands on his head, and you can just hear him screaming, "This is the best day of my life." And it really was a moment that went way beyond just skateboarding. He had done the impossible. And if landing the 900 wasn't a big enough deal for 1 year, something else happened in 1999 that took him from being a sports hero to a full-blown global icon. The video game Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was released. And it wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural phenomenon. It introduced an entirely new generation of kids all over the world to skating. So, with his fame now totally cemented, Tony Hawk started to shift gears. He wasn't just a competitor anymore. He became a true ambassador for the sport he loved, and started building a legacy that went way, way beyond the skateboard. And he used that massive platform for so much good. Remember Birdhouse, the company he started when he was almost broke? It became one of the top brands in skateboarding. The video game franchise, it just kept getting bigger and bigger with 18 titles. He then founded the Skatepark Project, which is this amazing foundation that builds free public skate parks in underserved communities. Oh, and he even became the first person to ever skateboard on the grounds of the White House, with permission, of course. You see, he completely transformed. He went from being that lanky, hyperactive kid on the ramp to something much bigger. The elder statesman of a sport he pretty much helped build from the ground up. He became the face, the name, the symbol of skateboarding for the entire world. And I think fellow pro skater Andrew Reynolds really said it best. He said that Tony Hawk showed everyone that you could be a skater, but you could also be a successful entrepreneur. And, most importantly, you could be a role model to young people. When you look at his whole story, it's just proof that real passion, when you mix it with that never give up resilience, it can actually change the world. So it kind of makes you think, right? What passion could you use to change yours?